This video is to quickly show how to set a lineup, particularly a coach before the game starts, so that they can have that set up and ready to go when the game is ready to start, and the game changer scorekeeper can quickly access the lineup. As you can see, here is what a schedule will look like for a team. We are in the bright and purple team. They have an upcoming game on Monday against Crown Colony 13U. This is a league game. You can see that where it says the BCRB 25 Babe Ruth Prep is the division that they're in, the league that they're in. If I click on that 14th, it'll bring up the next screen. Do not click the score game until you are ready to start that game. However, as a coach, if you want to set the lineup for that game, so when the game changer scorekeeper does click score game, their lineup for your team pulls in automatically. Go ahead and click set starting lineup. And then from there, you can click on add players, and it will bring up a list of players that you can click on to add them to your lineup, which I will cover in the next video using a test lineup. Please click on the players in the order that you would like them to bat, and they will pull them in that order. It makes it easier so you don't need to fix it later. Again, do this early before the game. If people don't show up or say they're not going to be there and end up showing up later, we can make those adjustments after the fact. But this will allow the opening team or your team to uh, start the game with the lineup already loaded for them. This next section is for game-changing scorekeepers to add in the opponent's lineup before the start of a game. As you can see here, they have gone ahead and clicked start line or start game from the previous screen to bring in the scene that allows you, or the screen that allows you to start the game. But we do not have an opponent set. This is by design. Even if the other team sets their lineup ahead of time, or you, as if you are the other team, you set your lineup ahead of time, the opponent will not have access to it automatically, and you will need to provide that lineup to them. We recommend writing it down on a paper that you can give to them so they can load it into their system. This is for competition reasons. They don't want the other team to have access to your lineups until the game starts, and so they need to manually put it in. As you can see here, as we come in, they have your lineup was already set by the coach ahead of time, and you have the and you're up to bat. We are up to bat first, but we need to set the opponent. So down at the bottom, you see a couple options: score, my team, which shows the Lions, which is our team, their lineup ready to go in. But if I click on the middle bottom, the opponent, I will see that I have no lineup set. Their players will be preloaded to the bench. The lineup won't be set. So at this point, you do not need to create new players or click on any other buttons other than add from bench. When you click on that, it will bring up their entire roster, and the order that you click on them is the order that they will bat. So let's assume that they're batting from top to bottom. So the first batter is number 2, number 7, number 10. But hitting cleanup is number 25. So I click on them. And then next up is 20, 32, 34, 40, 41, 44, and 51 hasn't arrived yet. They don't know if he's going to show up. So at this point, we are leaving them off of the lineup. I go ahead and hit done. It brings them into the lineup in the batting order that they have. Notice that each of them have an EH next to their name. That stands for extra hitter. It does not put them into a position unless I choose that for them on this screen. It is important to make sure we know who the pitcher is. But the rest of the lineup for the opponent, they change often. You don't need to be informed of each of those changes, and it's up to you on whether you want to try to keep up with that or not. I would recommend that you try and maybe do them at the start, but don't try to maintain it throughout the game. The only exception is the pitcher. In this case, they tell you that number 20, Jay Roberts, is the pitcher. So I click on that name. It brings up the batting order, and I click on P for pitcher, and then I just can hit back in the top left corner, and now I have Roberts listed as pitcher. I sometimes like to know who the catcher is. We'll say it's number 41, batting ninth, Martin. So I click on that, and I have the catcher. But beyond that, I am not worrying about where any of their other players are batting. So now I have their full lineup set up. And if I click on the bottom left to go back to the score, I can now see that we have J. Roberts pitching to V. Martin, and our batter, C. Reynolds, is up to bat, ready to go. We are ready to start scoring this game. Now, if later on through the game, say we get through a batter or two, and we're on our next hitter, he's out at first, just getting through. And all of a sudden, that last person, we said someone wasn't going to be there. He arrives, and we need to add him to the lineup. By our rule, they should automatically go to the end of the lineup. So from the bottom, I clicked on my opponent. I have their 10 batters. They have an 11th that they're adding. We say add from bench. We click on Jackson. We hit done in the top right. And now Jackson is in that 11th spot. By rule, they should always be at the end of the lineup, no matter where we are in the batting order. And will bat when their turn comes up in that thing. So he will hit after Daxter, even if we've already gone through the lineup once. Daxter has already batted. Jackson will have to wait until that time comes up again. We then click back to score, and we can continue scoring the game at that point. If somebody has to leave early, say we're up to here, we click on our team, and Browning, who's up next to bat, unfortunately, he has a banned performance and he needs to leave before he can complete that at bat. If I do that, I will click on Browning. When I click on him, I have the sub out of lineup option. I click on sub out of lineup, and then I have who is replacing C. Browning. I will say leave empty. That creates a hole in there. And then because I don't have anyone coming in for it, I go ahead and click remove. And they're only batting 8 people for the rest of the game. They're going to play without a right fielder. And then can click back to score and then continue with the next batter going on. He gets a hit and play. He gets a single, hit to the second baseman. And now we'll be able to go in that. And we saw we skipped where that fourth batter was. And now Issel, who was hitting fifth, is now hitting fourth and is up to bat next. In the next section, we will cover how to score different scenarios within the game. In this section, we will go over the actual scoring of a game and keeping track of batters as they bat and how to handle the different events that happens within there. If you want to practice on it, you can go to the schedule of the team that you are listed as, and on the top right corner, there is the gear icon. You click on that gear icon, you see a practice scoring a game option. Click on that, and it will do a practice game between your team called the Lions and a practice team or an opponent called the Tigers. So the Lions, our team is up to bat. The Tigers are pitching and are in the field. And you can use this to run through the scenarios that we are going to do. As each batter comes up, again, the most important thing is to make sure the pitcher is correct. We have pitcher number 34, Houghton. I would check that and make sure number 34, Houghton, is on the mound. At the start of every inning, I will check that and make sure that is updated. They didn't make a change between innings. Coaches should tell you, it has been told to them that they need to let the Gamechanger scorekeeper know whenever they make a pitching change. Obviously, if it happens in the middle of an inning, you need to pay attention. And if they need to be subbed out, you can. So we'll say we are in the middle of an inning. We have Houghton pitching, but he gets hurt in warm up and they need to make that change. So I will go to the opponent's lineup. And instead of pitching number 34 Houghton, they're going to put in the left fielder, number 44 Baxter. I'll click on him. I will click on the P for pitcher for him, and then I'll hit back in the top left corner. And now I have Baxter as pitcher. I can change Houghton, who might just be moving to left field. There, back, and now I have them all covered. Again, all I really care about is that pitcher is correct. But now that we have Baxter pitching, we are ready to go back to the game and can start the game. So Baxter matches up with who's actually out on the field, is up to bat. We're ready to start. Batting for our team is number 2, C. Reynolds. And I go ahead and click the pitch button here in the middle, and it brings up the menu of different options that we have for each pitch. So obviously we have a few different calls that we can make on each one. The top section covers the balls and strikes that are not put into play. So if it's a ball called by the umpire, it's the top one. A called strike means that they did not swing, but it was called a strike. It's a backwards K, and it's just an option that they record. And then if they swing and miss it, they record the forward K there. So we'll say they're up to bat. The first pitch was high, so it was a ball. The next one was a strike that they didn't swing at, get a called strike. And then on the third one, they did a swing and miss. And now we have up at the top, you can see the count is one ball and two strikes. We see another option show up. This will matter for majors and above. A drop third strike means that they threw the ball, the catcher caught it, they called a strike, they called a strike, but the catcher did not catch the ball. It hit the ground, and then that gives the runner the ability to run to first base to see if he can make that. We'll do it on this one. Drop third strike. Did he swing at it or was he looking? We'll say he swung at a ball that went into the dirt, but the catcher didn't get it, but he was able to pick it up and threw the batter out at first base. So we'll click on batter out at first, and the ball, then it has you, and this is a common thing on what to do, is to say who picked up the ball and where did they throw it. So the catcher picked up the ball that was in the dirt and they threw it to the first baseman. I hit done, and that out is recorded. And it automatically, we'll see we're up in the at bat, the AB in the top left is now P Underwood. And in the very top, we now see for the O, we have one out. It automatically recorded and moved to the next batter. And so we can do this again. We have a ball. They swung and missed. And then they fouled one off. Maybe they fouled off a second one. It's important to mark the foul balls because we are keeping track of how many pitches the pitch has how many pitches the pitcher has thrown. So at this point, we can see up above, kind of a dark there under D Baxter. He has thrown 8 pitches so far. The coaches will be watching for this so they know when to pull their pitchers out so that they might be able to use them in another game without going over their pitch counts. So after a couple foul balls, they then put the ball in play. When you click on that, you have a couple different options on what type of hit it was. Was it a ground ball? Was it a hard hit ground ball? A fly ball? A line drive? Did they bunt it? Or did they hit a high pop, lazy pop fly that was really high in the air? We'll just say that they hit a hard ground ball and they were able to get to first base on it on a single. So I'll click single. It will now ask me where that ball went. We'll say they hit it and it got past the shortstop and went into shallow left field. So I dragged the left fielder over to where he picked up the ball and made it to first base. So we now have a runner at first base. We can then see that Kate Parker is the next batter, happens automatically. We still only have one out. And I can now click on pitch to start the next batter. Now that we have a batter on base, we have a few more things that we can look at that might happen. We will say that the first pitch was a ball and it went past the catcher and the runner on first base ran to second. So after I clicked on the ball, I can then just click on behind it and then I can manually drag with my finger number 25 over to second base. And it'll ask me, was he safe or if he was out? If he made it safely, I'll leave it on the safe and I'll get a pop-up that says, how did he get there? Did he steal the base? Did they just let him steal? Was it a bad pitch? Did the catcher miss it? Or was some other error happen? Usually, for the most part, we just say stolen base, unless you really want to get technical and know more about it. But stolen base for most of us is fine for that. We now have that runner on second base. We then can click on pitch and continue with the at-bat. So now we'll just say he hit the next one, a deep ball line drive that went deep into the outfield, and the guy on second base was able to score on that play. So we'll put the ball in play. It was a line drive that he got the second base himself on. So I will say it was a double, and it went clear out to the outfield here where the center fielder got it. So the automatically moved Parker on the double to second base, and it's assumed that number 25 made it all the way home. And now I have a choice. I can say he got out, he was safe, or I can send him back to third. Maybe he got a bad jump and he went back to third. I hit safe. He scores. We can now see that the Lions up at the top are 1, the Tigers are 0, and Parker is on second base ready to go. And then the next batter, Browning, is up to bat. We can do the pitch. And we have some plays. This time, he puts the ball in play. It's a ground ball to second baseman who throws him out at first base. So I did ball in play, ground ball, batter out because the batter got out this time, and he was out at first base. So when I put that, it then wants me to say who got the ball and where did they throw it. So the ball I said went to second base, so it went to Yang, who then threw it to Thompson at first base, and I can say done, and he's out. And Parker moved to third base, but maybe Parker was afraid. They looked him back, and he was afraid to run on that hit. And so I have the thing to drag him back wherever I can want him to go. I said he should have probably went to third. It assumes that, but he stayed at second. So I'm going to say he was safe at second, and I can get an option. It asked me. I'd say he did not advance. So he just stays there. So we got two outs. We have the next person up. They put the ball in play. It's a line drive, but he was out because he hit it right at the shortstop. And so it was a line out to Smith. I hit done. And that ends the half inning and it'll give me an option to accept and switch. So I go ahead and hit accept and switch. And now you see that the teams have switched. We now have Santos from the Lions is now pitching, and Jackson is the batter for the Tigers. We're at the second part of the bottom part of the inning now. We can then click that and then bring up the options that we have there. If you are ever lost and you are not sure what to do and you need to call a batter out, you always have this red batter out other option. If you're not sure, you can choose that and that'll get in there. If they're on base and you're not sure what's happened, you can click put on base and advance to first, second, or third and put them on. Sometimes things happen that you might not be able to follow. Those options are there. We also have some additional items here at that bottom section, hit by pitch, which happens, intentional balls and walks, which shouldn't happen too often. My catcher interference means that they swung the bat and it hit the catcher because he reached too far out, which means they automatically get on base. And sometimes an illegal pitch, hopefully that doesn't come up too much. We're not going to really count that and worry about that too much. But those top two sections are where we'll mostly worry about players. Okay. The last scenario I want to go over, say let's put a guy on base. He hits a line drive and he gets a single and it goes clear out here and he gets there to first base. But there was a weird throw when Vivek, number 11 in right field, got it. He tried to throw it to Reynolds, but he overthrew it Reynolds, and Jackson decided to move to second base. They tried to throw him out at second base, but Underwood, number 25, missed it, and he ran to third base. They threw it again to Wong. Wong caught the ball, but Jackson never slowed down and continued straight to home. They threw it home to get Masterson at catch, but he got under there. He didn't make the play, and he ended up scoring anyways. So what do we do? You can try to track all of that by putting it all the way through, and if you really know your stuff, you can do that. Really, we just need to know Jackson scored. So you have the ability to drag him all the way around to here, and you can say he was safe and you can just say he was safe on either other or on the throws or errors if you want to do that. And that if you choose errors, you'll have to mark who made the errors. But really, you can just say it was on the throws. He made it all the way home and he scored. And that can happen on anybody that gets on base. You can move them anywhere they need to go by just moving them there and then say it was an other or throwing error or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Just move them to where they need to be and get them, make sure they're on the base that they should be at. If you ever make a mistake, you can click the undo button and that'll send them back to the last thing that you want. You can also, if you forgot to change out a pitcher, say that the start of this, we had the wrong pitcher for the start of the inning. If you come in here, we can say that the pitcher was not Santos. They told us it was, but it was actually Browning. I can say it was Browning and I can save that and go back. And now I have Browning on the mound for all of those plays because he's now in for pitching. On the next section, we will cover how to end half innings when we hit our limits and how to end the game overall, as well as manually adjusting any score that we need to get the score correct before we finalize the game. In this section, we're going to cover how to fix the end a half inning when we hit our score limit for a certain inning. As you can see right now, we are at right now at the bottom of the first, and the Tigers have scored 5 runs. You can see that in the top middle. The Tigers are at 5 runs for the innings. If I click on stats here on the side, I can also, sorry, if I click on the plays button at the bottom, it can then show me the scorebook up at the top, and I can see that the Tigers have scored 5 runs. The next point that they score will end the half inning, and we'll move on to the next part. So we have Browning or Yang up to bat with Browning pitching, and we'll say that they pitched the ball, they put a ball in play, they hit a line drive that was a single to the right fielder, number 11, Vivek, and on that play, Hernandez, number 32, ran home and scored the last run. So he came through and he was safe at home. We'll say it was on the last play, and we have scored that run. It is now 6 runs in the inning, and per our rules, that is the end of the half inning, and we need to continue. Now, obviously, we don't have any outs, so there's not a quick, we can't do it within the scorebook himself. But in the top left corner, we have a menu button. If you click on menu, you will have an option to end the half inning. Go ahead and click on end half inning. It'll ask us if you double check and say that, yes, we have 6 runs on 2 hits, and we will go ahead and accept and switch. And we're now at the other half of the inning, and we can continue there where the batter is up there. If we can go continue on this, we're just going to put some people on base. By an intentional walk, hit by pitch, catcher interference. Hit to the bottom lineup. It'll ask us if we need to add another batter or return to the top because we're at the top. We'll hit return to top of lineup. And we hit a home run, clear the bases, line drive, home run, dead center, and everyone scores. So they scored at this point. If I look at plays, they have 5 runs this inning. They get one more and they're out. So we'll just say the next batter gets on because he was hit by a pitch. But then the next guy, he also hits a home run. We want to record that. Ball in play, line drive, home run, out to right field, left field this time, and they score. Unfortunately, that put us over the limit. Plays, we, no matter what happens on the play, limit it to 6 runs per inning. So even though it was a home run and they got up to 7, they can only score 6 runs on that inning. So what do we do to fix this? We will go into the menu right here, and we have manual override. We don't want to take away the home run. We want it to be on his stats, but we can change the score to what was counted. So while they got 8 runs that inning, we're going to change this over to 7 runs and save. So the score is 7-6 with that manual change because we can only record that one run on the inning. Usually on a regular play, if it's not a home run, we just stop when the first person gets there. Even if they continue to run home, we would say they stopped at third base and the runner that scored, and that would be the end of the inning. Okay. All right. The last scenario we want to cover is that we are now late into the game. We will say we have completed 3 whole innings, but they were long innings with a lot of walks, and we have run out of time and we need to end the game. So in order to end the game, even though we haven't played a full 9, it doesn't show it completely on this as this is a practice game. But if you click on the menu button up at the top, it will have an option in here. We only have exit current game, which will save the game to be resumed later. But there is another one that says end the game. You'll be able to click on that. It will then bring up an option to choose a winning pitcher. You don't need to do that. You can say skip and finalize the game, and that will end the current game. So that is all you have to do to end the game. That will then send a message out to the league to let us know the game is complete and record it on the win-loss record on the uh, league application. Occasionally, as a scorekeeper, you will get in a situation like this. We are now at the bottom of the fifth inning. If I click on plays, you can see that the score was that the Tigers were winning 10-9 at the end of the fourth inning. At the top of the fifth inning, the Lions scored 2 runs to go up 11-10. The Tigers are now batting in the bottom of the fifth inning, but we hit the drop dead time limit for the game, and they were not able to finish their at bat, which would make it fair. They'd have the same number of bats as the Lions were able to do. When this happens, the game has to resort back to the where it was on the last completed inning. So that would be where the Lions had 8 runs and the Tigers had 10. And so, in order to do that, while this game's there, I don't want to remove any of the plays that they have. I would come into the menu, I would do a manual override, and I would remove those last 2 points that they scored in the last inning that no longer count and set the score to a Tigers win 9-10. I would do that. I would then go to the menu. And again, this is a practice game, so I don't have the option to end game and finalize, but I would click on that from this menu, and that would end the game with the Lions winning over the Tigers 10-9. As a final note, I just want to say that there are a lot of weird things that happen in a baseball game. The ball gets thrown around a lot, the weird things happen, and sometimes you need a minute to record everything before the next at bat happens. Take your time, get the umpire's attention if you need a minute, get the coach's help if you need to make sure that everything is correct. It is really important to the coaches that they have it right, and they will take a moment to make sure you have everything recorded and ready to go before the next pitch. Don't be shy about asking for help and reaching out to the coaches to help with any problems that you might have to make sure they have the score correct and that the pitchers are right. Make sure that you're visible and known to both the coaches so they know where to find you. So if they make a pitching change, that those can be recorded. If I can't validate that a pitcher changed, it might make turn the game into a forfeit if you have recorded too many pitches for a pitcher that should have been removed because you missed that change of pitcher. Again, the coaches should let the scorekeeper know when they pull a pitcher out, but if they don't, please be vigilant and make sure the number of the pitcher matches up with what you have in the game changer. If you do have any questions, reach out to the league president. The coaches know how to get in hold of them, and we can walk you through any scenario that you might have. We really appreciate it. The league couldn't happen without the scorekeepers, and I know it's a volunteer and sometimes stressful position sometimes in the heat of the moment, but a good scorekeeper really makes a difference for the coaches and for the league, and appreciate anyone who volunteers to help in that capacity. Thank you.